Hello, and welcome to Unfudge Your Marketing. This is a show where I chat with business owners and leaders about their marketing missteps, mishaps, and things that didn't go quite as planned. But most importantly, we focus on the lessons learned for all of you, our listeners. I am your host. I'm Christy Mitchell. I am a marketing strategist and consultant. I specialize in working with service based business owners who have relied on referrals and word of mouth. And they know in order to grow for the future, they need to finally think more strategically about their marketing. Today, I am so excited to welcome Chanelle Yarber to the show. As an entrepreneur and community leader, Chanelle Yarber is the visionary CEO of Bright Girl Media. Chanelle is a consummate communicator who takes great pride in creating campaigns that are culturally relevant and meet customers where they are. She has been globally recognized for her business and marketing acumen. Her experiences in marketing, media, and entrepreneurship, coupled with her candid personality, allow her to cut through the noise and service her clients with excellence. She is passionate about helping other women entrepreneurs thrive and enjoys golf, double dutch, and traveling when she's not in the office at her daytime job as a VP of Lifecycle Marketing for a community bank. With that, I will welcome Chanelle to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. I always like to share with our audience how I know my guests. And Chanelle and I were racking our brains earlier because we've known each other for a few years now, but we couldn't remember exactly how we met. So we figured it out. It was Success Champions. So shout out to Success Champions Network. I think we were I think we were both there just a very short time, but luckily we
Mhm.
met each other. And I know we've stayed in each other's worlds through our emails back and forth. So I'm so grateful to have you on the show.
I'm glad to be here.
So when we were talking about having you on the show, you shared with me an experience that you had. And I think that this is so interesting because first of all, I think it's awesome for businesses outside of the marketing world to see that even as marketing businesses, we hire other marketers as well for our own business. We don't just do it all ourselves. And so you, as a marketing agency owner, hired another outside provider to help you with your marketing. And one thing that you specifically honed in on when we were talking about having you on the show was this notion that you are very in tune with your target audience. And that seemed to be kind of the missing piece of you bringing on this outside provider to help you with your own marketing. They weren't as in tune with your audience. So, where would you like to start this conversation?
Oh my gosh. So, first of all, I want to go back to the fact that we met networking and how important that was because it kind of leads up to the issue that we're going to talk about. So, for the
Love it.
in the beginning, and I was listening to you as you were kicking off the show, and you were talking about how many of your clients rely on word of mouth and their networks and things like that to grow their businesses. That was definitely me in the beginning. And so I was so focused on networking, going to all these events, hence why it took us a quick minute to figure out where we met because I've been all over the place, it feels like. And I got to a point where I was at an inflection point where I needed to shift what I was doing. And I was like, okay, I know how to tap into my network. I've met all these great people. This is kind of burning out. I need to feed my pipeline.
Yes.
And like many small business owners, I fell into the trap of, and I hate calling it a trap because I do it too as a marketer. So, but I'm on the flip side of this. So I'm gonna call it a trap for the story of Facebook ads. And so someone kept coming across my timeline and they were on Facebook and I want to say on LinkedIn too. And it was like, you know, 10x your business by doing this, that, and the third, and partner with me. I can help market your business and all this other stuff. And I'm like, okay. So I took the bait and I go in and I had curated a specific audience and brand proposition and all these things that was very authentic to me and my passions. But when I translated and tried to share that with the other marketing agency that I hired, they were like, oh, you need to expand and go bigger and do this and do that. And I was like, yeah, but no. And they're like, well, you need to do this in order to reach, these targets and for us to all this stuff. And so I'm like, okay, trepidatiously, I bite and I go into it. And it was one of the worst experiences Sad, because I spent so much money. I know I spent about $20,000.
Wow.
Yeah, between working with them as a strategist as well as like the ads and the placements and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And I know I didn't make $20,000 back. And so I was just like, where's the 10x?
Yeah.
And it just came down to it wasn't my authentic voice, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
It fell flat.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, there's so many things that I want to kind of pull out from the start of this story that you're sharing with us. The first thing is I love that you're saying like this was the next step for you because you had been networking, you had been, establishing those relationships, and that is what I find a lot with clients too, right? Is that they really leverage those relationships and networking, but eventually you're just like, gosh, this is exhausting. And
Mhm.
I need to leverage other avenues in terms of marketing to really help bring in those clients to me so that I'm not having to always go out and find the next client. And so to you, you were like, you started getting these ads, right? And you're like, oh, this sounds really enticing. The other thing, I think it's like such perfect timing of this conversation that we're having. I already recorded the video. It's going out later this week because I've been seeing so many service-based business owners fall into the same trap, like you said, where you want the quick fix. You
Mm.
want, like, you see this message and you're like, oh, yeah, I need that. Like, I'm so stressed and time strapped and like, I need some clients. And yeah, this sounds like a great option for me. But at the end of the day, it's really one of these like quick fix things, which does it actually end up fixing the problem?
Yeah. Yeah. I think as business owners, I'm going to take my marketing strategist hat off, but I'm just going to say as business owners, we know why we got into business. We know what we do well. We typically are the secret sauce to what we do. Um, but a lot of times we doubt ourselves, particularly as women. We talked about this a little bit too, particularly as women entrepreneurs, has been at the crux of my target market for most of my business. We
Hmm.
tend to doubt ourselves. And so as a business owner, it's one thing. And then as a marketing strategist, it's another thing. And then it's like you have this dichotomy where you're like, I know where I want to go, I know what I need to do, but this person is telling me to go over here and this shiny object over here looks great. So maybe I'll pay attention to the shiny object and forget all about what I put into my foundation and my basis for my business. And let me chase this squirrel. And then you're lost
Yes.
somewhere you didn't intend to be. So
Yes, and I really appreciate you sharing that sentiment as a business owner, especially as a business owner in the field of marketing, because I think that resonates with so many other business owners out there, and I think it's probably reassuring for them to hear that they're not the only ones feeling like, "Oh, I invested in this thing and it didn't work out for me," or "I got this shiny object syndrome and I maybe didn't stick to my gut and I, went down this rabbit hole and wasted money or time or energy or all of the things." And then coming back to what was it that you kind of tell me more. Let's dive in, I guess, deeper into that experience of working with them. And when did you kind of come to realize like, gosh, I should have listened to myself and told them, no, we can't be all things to all of these people. We really need to focus on my market that I know is the one I want to target. What Tell me more about that experience.
so when I guess had the aha moment is when, yes, I was getting people into my pipeline. They were, going into my form and going through the funnel and all that other good stuff, but they weren't converting. They weren't the quality of client that I needed and wanted. It was just a lot of people. And
Yeah.
so it looked great because it's like, oh, like I'm getting all these ping, 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 emails and different alerts telling me that somebody has downloaded, the freebie that I had, or they're putting their name in to get on my list and different things like that. But then when I get on the call with them and I'm trying to qualify them, it's like, no, this would
Not a
never
good
work
fit.
out. This is not a good fit. I just wasted 30 minutes qualifying someone, and either they can't afford it, they're not at the place in their business where they're ready for the service that I have to offer, or we just don't align. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, as a small business owner, especially a solo entrepreneur, you have a specific amount of time. And of course, you have systems and things like that that you build into your business. And hopefully, you get to the point where you have other people that you're hiring so they could take on some of that load. But if you're doing most of this stuff on your own, you're the pipeline, you're the email person, you're the strategist, you're the janitor, you're everything. And so my time was very valuable to me. So me sitting there for, a couple hours a day talking to people on the phone only to realize it was going absolutely nowhere. That's when I was like, okay, this is not this is not what I paid for. This is not what
Right.
I, bargained for to get myself into. There was no return on investment. And
Yeah.
I knew like how many people I needed to talk to in order to get a conversion. I had that down to a science, and this was completely blowing my science out of the water. And I
Mm.
was like,
Yeah.
okay, I can't keep throwing, good money after bad to try to recapture these clients. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, kudos to you, Chanelle. And I'm sure that, some of it comes from being a marketer yourself, but you knew your numbers, right? You knew what your conversion rate should be. So as you're getting on all these calls and they're not converting, you're like, wait a minute, something's up. This isn't my norm.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
So
that too. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I think that in the time, and this is just me being transparent, and I know it's going to sound anti-marketer. Please don't kick me off your podcast. I'm a marketer too, so I'm
You're
so
allowed.
I say this with caution and trepidation, but I say it in honesty. Um, there was a time just a couple years ago, we all were, in the house. It was the pandemic, and everything was like entrepreneurial focused. Everybody was excited, and it was like all these offers, all these webinars, all the things were going on. And it was very easy to get off track and then get into something and see an opportunity somewhere. But I think what happened when the world opened back up is the real serious entrepreneurs, they stayed because they already had their
Mm,
foundation. They knew what was going on. They knew how to pivot and shift. And some of those fly
hmm
by night flew by night. And so
Yeah.
what happened in the middle of that is some of us got caught up in the fly by nights. Others of us kept pushing forward and moving beyond it. And so, as business owners, we have to be savvy enough to know what is smoke and mirrors, because a lot of this stuff is
hmm
just pretty marketing that's just out
Yeah.
there. And I know how to do pretty marketing because I'm a marketer. You know how to do pretty marketing because you're a marketer. And so that's not against anything marketing. It's just about the people behind it and what their
Yeah.
intent is. Are they just there for a quick buck and they just want to get you into their pipeline, and
hmm
they don't have any basis to create a long-term relationship with you, which was the case with this particular agency? Or are they there really to solve a problem, dig in, and help you build your business as a partner? That's two different things. So,
Yes. Yeah, so I'm curious on that line, Chanelle, right? Because on the show, I totally appreciate your transparency, and I always encourage that with my guests. We're here to have honest conversations, so thank you for doing that. What what advice would you give to a business owner if they are going out and looking for agencies to partner with? How do they kind of help make this distinction in their minds? To your point, is this just a fly by night trying to make a quick buck company, or is this like a true partner that I can trust and we're going to have a great relationship? How do you think, right? Hindsight's 2020. What might you have done differently, or how do you think there was a way for you to kind of catch that earlier on?
um, yes, one is not being so impulsive.
Mm,
Um, Sometimes these offers and different things are out there and they create that scarcity mindset, like, oh, you have to get in right now, and if not, it's only open to the next 10 people. Sometimes that may be true, but for the most part, it's creating scarcity to get you to make a buying decision. And
yep.
so if it feels too rushed, too good to be true, too much, that's your gut telling you, hold on, let me pump the brakes. Let me do a little bit more research. Let me actually verify that these people that have their testimonials on this website still feel that way afterward. I'll
Yeah.
be honest. I worked with another company and I was so gung ho about their products and I was really excited. And within the first, I'm gonna say 2 to 3 weeks, they got a testimonial out of me. This was like 8 years ago. People still call me or reach out to me on LinkedIn today based upon an 8-year-old testimonial. They
Wow.
want to know whether or not, like, should I buy this? And I'm honest with them that I don't even use that service anymore. So I can't speak to it right now.
Yes.
So you may have to dig in, do some research, call their, customer base, figure out
Hmm.
what their process looks like and if it fits you. And
Yeah.
if you're talking to them and it just does not sound, it just sounds too good to be true, it may be
Yeah.
too good to be true. I mean, we want to be believers, right? But
Hmm.
it's just
Yeah.
too good to be true. And then
Right.
just staying true to your core business. If this is taking you too far off your path, or you have to create this imagination in your mind to even envision where you're going or where they're trying to take you, they're probably taking you off path. So
Yes.
if you're in lockstep with people when you talk to them, but sometimes, like I said, we get distracted by the shiny objects and we want the 10x and we want that tomorrow, like they're promising, and it's just not,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I think there are so many great lessons there. So I heard from you feeling rushed by a provider might be a red flag to pay attention to, right? If there's this like scarcity and they're trying to pressure you into making a decision right away, that is one red flag. Another, which I was going to say, but I wanted to like leave it on you and see what you were going to say, is that whole notion of like promising results. I've talked about this on other episodes. And I've created a video that speaks to this and put it out on social. Like, I do not promise results because the type of marketing that I do for my clients is long term. I cannot guarantee you that you will get 10 new clients next month. Like, I can't guarantee that because there's so many factors that play into it. And a
Mhm.
lot of it is that whole analogy of like planting seeds and watering them, and they're going to grow at different speeds. And that, that whole, I love that analogy when it comes to especially organic marketing. Like, when we hear these promises that sound too good to be true, they are probably too good to be true. And I am always leery when I see any verbiage in that way that's promising what type of result you're going to get.
Yeah, I concur with that because marketing is an iterative process. And I think if business owners come to the table understanding that, they give us more grace to really lean in and do our jobs the best way that we can. I may have a strategy that works for client X, and you may be similar to client X, just like the same thing with this agency that I work with. They had a client book that was very similar to me, but I
Uh-huh.
had my own secret sauce. So
Yeah.
they didn't take the time to iterate on what they needed to do to get me the results, and they weren't really listening. So that's another thing. Make sure that your voice is heard and that you are advocating for your business. This is your business. And so if you feel like you're being silenced and they're taking directions that you aren't ready to get off on that off ramp and they're speeding,
Yeah.
they're probably doing something, and it may be to your detriment.
Yes.
So it really boils down to trusting your gut. Like I said, it's iterative. I don't promise people results either because it could be so many different factors that go into it. I tell people it's like an experiment. I
Yep.
may pour a little bit too much of this or not enough of that or whatever, and I need to tweak and move and watch how your business moves over time in order to really be able to pull together a solid strategy that works for your business. Everything should be bespoke to your business because my business and your business aren't the same thing, even though we're both marketing strategists. We don't even serve the same people.
Yeah.
You're not
Yeah.
you are my competition, but you're not my direct competition. And I think,
Right.
yeah, that's why I could be here and talk to you.
Yeah. I would talk to direct competitors too. I no, so I really, again, I love this point that you're making about marketing is an iterative process and it's experimental. And I think that as a marketing provider, it's on us to have that conversation with our prospective clients and explain, right? So I think that that lends itself to your point about, are they listening? Are these providers listening? Is it a collaborative partnership? Because if you're trying to have this conversation about like, well, you're trying to target those people, but that's really not my audience. And like, no, it's fine. It's fine. They're dismissing you. They're not listening. And back to the point too about making those huge promises of ROI, not a good look, not a good feel for that collaborative type relationship where it's like, okay, I want you to listen to me. I want to, let's talk through this. And I think that when a marketing provider comes to the table and just has that brutal honesty, like, I'm not going to promise you results, but what I can promise you is we're going to try these things. We're going to pay attention. We're going to see how it works. And we're going to take the lessons learned and we're going to move on from there and figure out what is the next best step. So I think that that's a really important thing for listeners to take away from this conversation that we're having is like, it's got to be a partnership. You got to be able to trust your gut. You can't feel like that provider is kind of steamrolling you and pushing you into something that doesn't feel aligned.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had so many people that have come to me after they've been burned, just completely burned to the ground, just smoke in the air, like sirens going off, just crazy stuff. I've heard so many crazy stories from other people. That's why I'm not afraid to share my story. And I don't feel like I'm just like crazy for following, down this path because it's so easy to do. And I did it myself as a marketer. So, and I know the
Yep.
language and I know what goes into this. I know, how the sausage is made. And
Yeah.
so I think if more people are honest about this and they're asking the questions and willing to ask the questions, because as business owners, we're expected to be the experts, right? So sometimes we're intimidated or too proud to ask the questions that need to be asked.
Yeah.
And that is how we get there. But you have to really be willing to be not the smartest person in the room, and to dig in and ask the questions. Even if you think you know the answer, just ask it anyway. And it'll uncover some things, because once you start having those deeper conversations with your marketing consultant, you'll know where their strengths and where their weaknesses lie, if you ask those right questions. So, yeah.
Oh, Chanelle, we have covered so much good information in this conversation. I want to thank you again so much for being so open and transparent and honest with your experience. I know for a fact that so many other business owners can resonate with this. That's why I started this show, honestly, because I kept having these conversations, whether it was networking calls or, prospective client calls. And like, there are no shortage of marketing horror stories out there of business owners who wasted money or just got totally burned in a relationship or whatever it is. And so I appreciate business owners like you being willing to come on the show and share their stories, because there are so many valuable lessons. And that's really my goal in this, is to help other business owners make better decisions and to hopefully avoid some of these costly mistakes. So thank
Yes.
you again. Is there anything, we covered a ton of ground. Is
I
there
know.
anything else that you want to leave with our listeners that we didn't cover, or maybe a point you just want to go back to?
Something that I do want to leave, is the power of authenticity. And I think it kind of puts a bow on all of this, and it might be a higher level conversation, but just the power of authenticity in communicating with your audience. If you know your audience, you have the data points, you have, you understand who they are and what their problems are, and you know that you are the one that can solve them. Be authentic and be willing to reach them where they are. And that may be saying no to some things. Say no to some things so that you can say yes to the right things. And so if you're willing to do that, you're willing to leave some things on the table and say, okay, this path is really working for me. I'm going to continue to carve this path. You don't have to have all the bells and whistles and do all the things that people are prompting you to do just because they're fads, just because it's the cool thing to do right now. So many people just a couple weeks ago were up in flames because they thought they were losing TikTok, and that was the main way that they were reaching their clients. But they didn't have an email list built, or they didn't have the background to do other things, and that's why they were panicking. So I just want to leave the power of authenticity and reaching people where they are, and having your business solidified and having your foundation there, so that you don't have to feel like you have to chase all these squirrels around and you don't get caught in that wheel.
Yes. Awesome. Love that. Love it. Chanelle, if people want to learn more about you and who you love working with, learn more about the services you offer, just connect with you, what is the best way for people to reach you?
LinkedIn is a great place to find me. I'm always there every day networking and talking to people. And you can also visit my website at www.brightgirl.media.
Awesome. Thank you again so much, Chanelle, for